Hi, this is One Punch Apologetics. This is One Punch. I've been missing for the last few weeks because I am down with a flu. Sad to say so, maybe due to age or maybe because I'm a cancer patient. It's harder for me to recover and took me weeks to be able to really speak clearly. Yes. So, during these last few weeks, I actually somehow found a treasure trove of Alex video regarding his response to all the arguments that we TCs have. So today I'm going to look into a video about Alex and another guy who's talking about the fine-tuning argument. Let us start this exciting video. Yeah.
We need to get this mentioned. Fine-tuning. Somebody says, fine-tuning, never
Somehow they find fine-tuning funny.
heard a good rebuttal to the issue. Christopher Hitchens was in the back of a car once, I think with like Doug Wilson or someone, and he was asked, are there any good religious arguments? And he says, the fine-tuning, the sort of hair's breadth balance, it's sort of, it does sort of, And
So, Alex is going to give the fine-tuning argument perfectly. Let's listen to what he says.
he sort of said it was something that really did actually trouble him. And a lot of atheists, possibly influenced by that clip, I don't know, seem to say that the most powerful religious argument is the fine-tuning argument. And so, what's the question that atheists can't answer? Why are the constants of the universe so finely tuned? There are constants which govern the physical universe, things like the strength of gravity, the strength of the strong and weak nuclear force, this kind of stuff. Like, if these had different values, by, whatever it is, 1 part in 1 times 10 to the minus billion or whatever, the universe couldn't exist.
So this is according to scientific research. It's not what we say. Okay?
It's just like balance on a knife edge. If gravity was slightly stronger, then the universe would have collapsed in on itself. If it was slightly weaker,
Yes.
then everything would have flown apart so fast that even atoms couldn't form. So there are 3 options here.
Okay, so Alex laid down 3 options. So let's hear.
The constants of the universe are so finely tuned because of chance,
Chance,
because of necessity,
necessity,
or because of design.
or design.
Chance seems ludicrous because the odds are just so unfathomable.
So chance is crazy to believe that the universe happened by chance.
Small. Necessity seems maybe possible, but like there doesn't seem to be any like logical reason why something
So it's not logical to be necessity. Okay?
would like the strength of gravity would have to be what it is, and the only thing left there is design, which requires something like God. So by ruling out design as an atheist, how do you answer this question?
Well, I mean,
How?
first of all, I'd say that I kind of
So now this guy, to be honest, I don't know what he's saying. He's not answering the question. He just speak and nothing out of substance come up from him.
I share the intuition that this is thorny.
Really?
Like, yeah, and this it quite often gives me pause for thought. This is, I think that the primary way that I think an atheist could respond to this is to again draw on questioning the justification of
Stunning.
the notion of possibility when stretched to ways the universe could be. So
Possibility. Oh, so by chance.
this is kind of broadly an argument from analogy, right? It's like Paley's watch, but with the entire universe. The universe is so finely tuned. If it was off by a fraction of a tiny number, then everything would collapse and we'd all be doomed. And if we were to find a similarly intricate object in the world, we would say, well, of course that was designed.
So basically what it means that if you find any object, for example, a mobile phone, you will of course know there's a designer behind the phone. So similarly to the universe, the earth and everything, there's a designer behind all this.
そのために来たんだ。
And again, it's interesting to bring this full circle from the beginning of the podcast. This is very similar to a point that Hume touches upon, where he again just questions the justification that we have for saying things could have been different, because it's like, well, what do we mean could there? As in, sure, it's non-contradictory to say things could have been different, but like, what do we genuinely mean? Like, it seems like we need a meatier sense of could than that. And also, he throws together, like, almost like off the top of his head, like a load of other hypotheses, because they're kind of equally, so he says, it could be that God is not intelligent, but just really
So the only defense is that God is stupid.
prolific. So, just if you do something an infinite number of times, then you'll eventually have this, which is kind of which is basically chance, but saying, well,
Yeah, which Alex at the start saying that chance is stupid. Yeah.
Yeah, so
It's
some
chance,
people
but
do
by
take the
multiplying.
chance
yes,
route,
yeah.
and they just say that we live in a multiverse.
So basically, stupid. So now Alex come with the most powerful argument. What is it?
Which
Mm.
I've spoken to people who believe in the multiverse. Not the kind
Multiverse. Marvel. So apparently Marvel Multiverse come into play. Okay.
kind of multiverse that I think would actually work here. But there are
Mm.
people who just say, yeah, there's a multiverse. We have no. Seems like we couldn't even possibly have evidence to sort of
Well,
indicate
exactly,
that's the
and-
case. But it,
So the case is that what is the evidence for a multiverse? There isn't any. Okay, even though there's a multiverse, every universe has a starting point, and who started it?
does like explain it. Okay,
Yeah.
there's one hypothesis. You
I
know?
mean, so and the other one is
So basically, it's just a hypothesis. So it's not even something that's true, or just out of nowhere, some fairy tale, Marvel.
he says is that we don't really know what he's talking about order generally. He says we don't really know how ordered or disordered universes could be.
Yes.
Is one of that's the kind of skepticism about the notion of possibility.
And that's more taking the necessity line.
Yes, yeah,
Because
exactly,
To,
that's-
to
yeah.
say
So now they move to necessity, which is ludicrous.
you know, had the law of gravity been different by one part in whatever it is, the universe couldn't exist, is not the same thing as saying there's a 1 in, like a 1
Yes,
part in
yeah.
10 to the whatever chance
yeah, so
that it does exist, because
Mm.
the sort of the room to maneuver in terms of, what would have been different had it been different is not the same thing as the chance that it could have been different.
yes, exactly. So basically the problem there is, well, how do you define a probability space on the ways the universe could have been, because we don't have any sort of observations there.
I thought initially LSA is almost 0. 1 is to a part of don't know how many thousand.
And Hume's point is not necessarily that that either of these are, well, so the dialogue kind of runs where Philo, the character in Hume's dialogue, says this, and then the response that he gets is, yeah, but like, isn't the idea of an intelligent God just so much more plausible? And then his response is to say something like, well, our idea of what is plausible is so
Yeah, so the intelligent God is more possible. So apparently they rather choose to talk about stupid thing or rather ludicrous thing.
fully intra-universal. It doesn't step outside the universe. It's just form within it. Outside the
Mhm.
universe, he's like, well, it's not necessarily that all bets are necessarily off, but that we don't know what bets are on. Is his point. So it's more of an agnostic point than an atheist point. He says, He says he doesn't know the answer, but he also thinks that we are ill-equipped to know the answer. But I don't know, man.
That is the best answer. We are equipped to answer this. That's what Richard Dawkins say also.
I don't know. It's just, doesn't it? On the other hand, doesn't it just seem like the universe definitely could have been tuned differently, and it definitely
I totally agree with you, man.
isn't?
Maybe, but there is a question that's sometimes asked as to
So Alex is aware of all this argument and all the details. So he does agree here somehow. He say maybe. Okay, let's listen what he's going to say more.
if this is by design. Like God designs everything, including presumably the parameters by which universes can and can't exist.
Mm.
And so there is this mystery of like, well, why would it be so difficult? Like if the universe is what everything exists for, the universe exists for the creation of humankind, that's like the purpose of it all. Then why would the parameters be set such that they're balanced on such a knife edge? Why wouldn't it be why wouldn't it be that like the sort of meta laws of the universe were such that it could exist in all kinds of different conditions? Now,
So over here, let us answer, Alex. Why does the universe have laws? All these laws is to show that our God is a God of consistent. He is of certain rules and all these things, and it's also a sign of there is an intelligent creator behind all this. This is a sign. God is not like all hidden, not telling anybody. It's just like whether they are willing to open up their heart and accept it.
like I've never found that a very convincing response, but I must say that I spoke
I just give a convincing response.
recently to my friend Phil Halper, who I've mentioned on this show before. He's got some wonderful ideas, and we were talking about Gnosticism, the tradition in Christianity. And I've been banging on about Gnosticism, and everybody seems to hate
So
me
he's
for it
running to somewhere else.
online at the moment. At least the Christian community are taking umbrage with how much I mention it. But like in some Gnostic traditions, there's this idea that the material world is created by this like evil demiurge, that the true God is this immaterial spiritual being, and that the material world is created by an evil or malevolent sort of figure. And so the Christian Gnostic position is many times that Jesus is sent by the Father to enter the material world.
The point here is that rather whatever his belief, he has no answer for atheism. So Alex can only be considered as an agnostic, or I don't know.
And sort of help people to throw off their material conditions and regain sort of their spiritual
yes.
truth, whatever. And Phil pointed out that the fine-tuning argument seems to work better for a Gnostic cosmology than a sort of traditional monotheistic one, because you've got these meta conditions which seem to have been designed such that it's like near on impossible to create a material universe, because the true God, the true sort of creator of everything, didn't want it to happen. Because
Why would the God didn't want to happen? He wanted only one instant, us, one time to happen. If this can be repeated so many times, then what is so special about us, human being? What is so special about this? God wanted to create a relationship with us.
the material world is evil and bad and incompetent and all this kind of stuff. And so the true God,
God's intention wasn't for the world to be bad and evil. It was because of man's choice, sin against God. That's why this is happening. But our God is loving. He has a redemption plan for us to go back to heaven, to be with him again. So
sort of sets the parameters so that it's nearly impossible. Like it's as impossible as it can be for a material world to come into existence, but the evil demiurge balances everything just right to bring it into existence.
Yeah, I mean,
I thought
that's
that was quite a novel point.
Yeah, I know, but that's fantastic.
but the point, they don't even understand what's the Christian belief in the first place. This is a joke, man. Seriously.
Like, I hadn't thought of that. I'd be surprised if anyone had thought of that.
Yeah.
That's art.
I can't remember where he got it from. I wish he probably got it from somewhere. I wish I could credit it, but it was a really interesting thought. Which, I mean, it's a bit silly. I'm being a bit silly here.
Yes, I agree. It's silly.
It does point out that like it kind of just depends where your intuitions lie. I mean, why is everything balanced on a knife edge? That question
Because
can be asked
God
in both directions. The
exists.
theist can say, look, if atheism is true, then why is everything just balanced on a knife edge? And I could say, if
Yes, if atheism is true, how come everything is balanced? Like somehow there's a creator behind all this.
like theism is true, why is everything balanced on a knife edge?
yeah.
You know,
The,
it's just-
Because God want to make us special. We human beings are special. We are made in the image of God. We are not like some sort of animal that is created everywhere like that.
same question.
Yeah, I mean, there's again, it trades on this idea of like, well, once you're at the level of meta laws, how likely is it that the laws of the universe were a certain way?
Yeah.
We're just so outside the realm of anything that we normally reason about that I find it hard to come to any conclusion whatsoever, apart from just throwing my intuition at it and kind of
Because he
grasping at
has no
something. It's
idea
like, oh
of
yeah,
what
it
he's
kind of seems
saying
like
at
it would be
all.
unlikely.
Yeah.
But when I think about all of the other times that I infer something is unlikely, I'm taking a set of previous experiences or other people's previous experiences or what I know about the laws that govern
Yeah.
this universe and coming up
Mhm.
with a hypothesis about how likely it is that a given
Come out with hypothesis that is stupid or silly or doesn't make sense.
set of possibilities will emerge.
Yeah.
But I don't have any of the prior data once I step outside to the meta laws of the universe.
It seems to me like if the fine-tuning argument is correct, that it is exceedingly unlikely
Mm.
for the constants of the universe to be as they are and that they needed to be in order to create the universe.
Why? Please explain.
That either God really didn't want the universe to exist, like he created things so that like he really did not want this to happen,
Why does he has this mindset? Because if God make fine tuning, he only want the instant to be so special, to be one time. It's not something that is can be repeat many times. It doesn't make sense at all in the first place.
maybe somewhere in the sort of infinite realm in which he exists, it just had to happen at some point.
Mm.
Or he really did want it to happen because he balanced these laws so perfectly, but he's somehow constrained by these, like, imagine like the
Okay, I want to know why Alex think that God is constrained.
immaterial creator God before the existence of the universe is constrained by the strength of gravity and the strong nuclear force.
Well,
Like,
this-
what,
I mean, like, Alex didn't know that Jesus walked on water. And he appear here and there. All the miracles that Jesus do. Does he look like someone that is being constrained by the material world?
like what?
Well,
What,
it's-
what, that,
mm.
what can that even like mean? How can God be constrained by the strength of the strong and weak nuclear forces in
Answer is he is not.
creating the universe? That just sort of seems unthinkable to me.
Well, I think this is draws upon a wider point we've touched upon a number of times, which is that there's an open question about if God does a lot of grounding for theistic philosophy, and quite right too. Right?
Yes,
this
I
is like
agree.
right back to like Aquinas and long before then. God does a lot of grounding, and it's a good philosophical job if you can get it. So it makes sense why he would. But then the meta question of what
You have nothing to say. Yeah, what?
grounds the things that seem to constrain God is like things like the laws of logic, which classically constrain God. It's like, well, God can't ground something that
Of course, there must be some sort of laws because God is law and order. If everything has no constant, there's no law and order, it will be just a big mess of chaos.
that
The
seems
law-
metaphysical.
The law and order itself is a sign that there is a creator God.
Prior to him and is constraining what he can do. So yeah, and the meta laws of the universe is another one. It's like, well, if God made the meta laws of the universe, then in what sense does then if God is constrained by the meta laws of the universe and had to do this
Why is he constrained? They don't even explain. They just assume.
fine-tuning thing, then it seems like what's grounding those meta laws?
Yeah.
You know,
So he's either constrained by these meta laws, which is like really weird because
Yes,
it means God
yeah,
is
yeah.
constrained by things like the force of gravity or the strength of
Mhm,
gravity.
mhm.
And if he's not constrained by them, then it seems really weird that he designed things so that they seem
Why is when God is not constrained by them, by the matter of law and physics, then he has to create things this way.
so constrained.
yes, and I mean this comes up
Why?
with
Why? Yeah, God is not constrained. There's nowhere that has a sign or say that God is constrained.
lots of other things, like the laws of morality. I mean, classically, this comes up in its like really nascent form in the Euthyphro dilemma, but has been developed a lot since then. Which is that if God is the thing that grounds the laws of morality, then from God's perspective, the laws of morality are morally arbitrary. Yeah. Which is amazing, right? That's that then there is just a kind of, well, he must have some other reason.
Yes.
Don't know what it is, but there is this what God grounds can't ground God, and what God is constrained by he can't ground. And sometimes it's very helpful for him to be constrained by things, and sometimes it's very helpful for him to ground things. But each of those has philosophical trade-offs, because once they're in one position, it seems very unintuitive that it would be in the other position.
So yet another question which gives us pause is difficult. I can't say that we've solved the problem. And like you say, it gives you a lot of trouble. I mean, I wouldn't say it's like easy. It's just not my favorite argument. I mean, a lot of people say this is like their best religious argument is the one that they struggle with the most. I mean, I find something like the existence of consciousness more compelling for theism than something like fine tuning. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I just haven't thought about it.
I think for me, the most troubling one we've looked at today is the self-undermining one.
Yeah,
that's the one that genuinely does keep.
Yeah, like the argument from reason.
Yes, yeah. That's like that.
I certainly find that the most interesting, and maybe also actually the most like difficult to respond to, but maybe not quite as like just moving as the consciousness that I am like constantly like in and aware of. Although you're not always aware of your consciousness. Even though you are conscious all the time you're awake, you're not always aware of it. I think
it's kind of transparent quite a lot.
Josh Rasmussen said he talked something about the difference between noticing a tree and noticing that you've noticed a tree. And it's sort of the second one that you need to really be thinking about consciousness as opposed to just being conscious. For it. Yeah, I can't remember sort of the exact phrase he used, but it was something like that. At any rate, these are all questions which, I can't say like we've answered them, but to say that they're questions that atheists can't answer, I know it's a good clickbaity video title, but I hope people have found some interest in listening to us give it an attempt and found us to be relatively fair on our treatment. I mean, I think a lot of this can be summed up in a question or a response that I got on Twitter that somebody said when I put out a tweet asking for questions. What's the question that atheists can't answer? Somebody said, most questions. That's what makes us different from everyone else.
Oh. Okay.
Admitting that we can't answer questions, but it's the fact that we admit that we don't know that makes us atheists.
Oh.
I don't know if that's a bit too self-congratulatory to say or to end on, maybe, but like I wouldn't just describe that to atheists, but I do think that this sort of basic response that seems underneath almost all of our responses here, that
don't know doesn't mean you're atheist.
Clarify, we don't know. I don't know the answer. I don't know what consciousness is. I don't know how to justify reason, but it's not clear to me that theism necessarily helps, and it's not clear to me that the
point here is that does Alex know what is atheism? Atheism is the view that there's no God. So it's not that the view of not knowing anything.
Certainty that theism sort of gives people is legitimate. The best that I can say is that I don't know the answer to a lot of these questions, but I certainly would be a far cry from saying that it's impossible for atheists to one day answer them, at least.
Yes, I think another thing that I kind of general takeaway from this discussion is that almost any ambitious philosophical view will have trade-offs to it. It is almost any philosophical view has questions that it cannot answer, and I think that's very, very interesting. It's one of the things that allows philosophy to continue. Hopefully, one day we'll converge upon a perfect, total philosophy.
And I think it'd be interesting to maybe sit down with a theist and do a series of questions that theists can't answer. Why does the mind map onto the brain so perfectly if it's not just the same thing as the brain? Why is there suffering in the world if God is good?
So easy.
The Euthyphro dilemma, these kinds of things. Like there are perennial questions that people have been raising for thousands of years to theists in the same way they've been doing to atheists. And I'm kind of glad in a way that no one really has an answer, because not only would I be out of a job.
So we realized at the end that Alex come with a conclusion that he don't know anything. And he's an atheist because he don't know anything. So does it make sense? Is Alex really a non-resistant non-believer? Or he's just someone who don't know anything, who has no experience of anything, who don't even know what is suffering, who have no clue of anything in this world that is happening. For fine-tuning itself is a clear evidence of a God, a creator God behind. And why is all this so fine-tuned nicely together? Because our God loved us, wanted to have a relationship with us. That's why even though mankind has sinned against God and has fallen from God, he still has a redemption plan in the end by sending Jesus come to die for our sin and to redeem us back to him, back to the loving embrace of our lovely God the Father. So if you all like, me going through some of this video and responding, like the video, share it, because I really find it very funny that the atheist people have a lot of weird view, which is Alex himself agree that's stupid, that's nonsensical, it's nonsense. But yet they hold on to it. Why? Just to deny God? I just want to share, God love you, and this is One Punch of Project X. If you like the video, please share and like the video.